Monday, the 12th of October. This is your Frontier Opening Bell. Welcome. My panelist, Ali Kansachu in Nairobi, the CEO and founder of Rich Frontiers Management. Ali, thank you so much. Good morning.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
We appreciate you. And Luke Ofojebe, who is in charge of equity analysis at Vertiva Capital, an investment and securities trading firm based in Lagos.
Good morning, Boasen.
Morning, Luke. Thank you so much. And Akintunde Sulaiman from Greenwich Merchant Bank. Thank you. The latest bank in Nigeria, by the way, the new one.
Thank you for having me.
Morning. Hope you had a great weekend. Gentlemen, let's look at the Nigerian market. We had 3 days of softening, but the market finished up on the upside, a massive 5.30%. Some profit booking late from the middle of the week through to Friday. Ivorian market was up almost 1%. The Egyptian market, that was a very roaring one, 2.49%. Kenya market softened around 0.15%, still holding the 140 handle. The South African GSC 1.15% positive. Looks like a very pretty weekend and past week across a number of frontier African equities. It's going to be a very busy week. So let's go to East Africa very quickly, where the news, which I've seen Ali tweet about this morning around Crown Paints, this company proposing a rights issue of 71.18 million shares. At what price is it coming to the market? Ali will update us on that very quickly. Uganda's constrained credit profile limits the country's capacity to absorb the shocks around COVID-19. That's according to Moody's Investor Services. And on the island of Seychelles, the Merge Exchange Genius Group shareholders are voting the takeover of Entrepreneur Resource. And Ethiopia is still moving ahead with privatization of its telecom company, but Ethio Telecom has gotten the go-ahead to launch its mobile money program. Ali.
So just let me start with Crown Paints. Crown Paints is one of the smaller companies here in the paint space, obviously. This is a very steeply discounted rights issue. The current share price is around 41 shillings, and they're selling shares at 10 shillings to raise about $7.1 million, essentially to shore up their subsidiaries where they've had a little bit of earnings pressure. And given that it's at such a steep discount, I think, shareholders will take up the offer. But, we should see a lot more of this going forward, I think. The merge story, very interesting. Genius Group shareholders voting to take over Entrepreneur Resource. Genius Group had a valuation out there of between $150 to $300 million. They were talking about doing an IPO in New York. They're focused in the entrepreneurial space at the intersection point between resorts and entrepreneurialism. It'll be interesting to see further developments, but it speaks to interesting activity out there in the Seychelles. So an interesting thing to watch. EdTech is where they're at. And we should keep an eye on that because that's a hot thing these days with everybody locked up at home. Ethiopia Telecom getting nod to launch mobile money services. This was something Safaricom was very keen to do in Ethiopia. It's 110 million population. The digital money opportunity is a blue sky one. And obviously Ethiopia Telecom are now getting their skates on ahead of an opening up of the telecom sector. Uganda's constrained credit profile limits capacity to absorb shocks from Moody's. This is more about the debt profile. In terms of GDP, Uganda, which is an agri-based economy, has done relatively well in the comparison of other sub-Saharan African economies, will post positive GDP growth. The question is how much. I think they're going to be the best growing economy in this region. So I think Moody's taking the hammer to a situation which maybe was not entirely justified given the growth profile that I'm seeing. At Comoros, BIC completes sale of majority stake in Atlantic Financial Group. BIC is an interesting operation, $24 million of revenue last year, I do believe, but obviously majority shareholder here, I believe, is Isabel dos Santos. So this is probably in line with her desire to divest herself of assets and what was a very aggressive claim from President Lourenço in Angola, where he basically said the first family had stolen or misappropriated $24 billion in a report on Bloomberg. So she's obviously keen to divest cash in and probably protect herself against what is a definite onslaught on its way from the Angolan government.
Thank you. The Ethiopian telecom story is very interesting because before you open up the space and get Safaricom to come in with his big stick and corner the market, you better position your own telco ahead of that. Give it a head start.
Yes.
before you do the privatization. If not, you're going to play second fiddle moving forward. I guess that's a smart move there by the authorities in Addis, by the way. But let's talk about the West African Nigerian markets, the protests around Nigeria's towns and cities on police brutality, and the Special Anti-Robbery Squad is getting everyone's attention. It's trending on social media. Nigerians want a change of this. The authorities have since disband this, according to the head of the police chief in the country. But pockets of protests are still noticed in Lagos, in downtown Lagos today, the central and the business district. The investors are looking to the Nigerian market, taking some profit ahead of the third quarter earnings. Today is the third quarter earnings on Wall Street, by the way, for US banks. So that is coming always ahead of the rest. The central bank is warning that there is a rise in fraudulent loan offerings and investment schemes across the country, asking everyone to try and be on the lookout. Speaking to the subsidies, the Nigerian authorities has bent to the Labour Congress, offering to pay 15 billion naira in electricity tariffs for the fourth quarter, October to December. What happens from January the 1st, 2021, we'll wait and see. But the World Bank says Nigeria can go ahead with petroleum subsidy removal. Akintunde, let me start with you on the story around the petrol and electricity subsidy issue.
Thank you, Bronson. I think those issues it's what I consider a double-edged sword. It's good for the sovereign, for the country, but for the people, the short term, it's a wrong timing. Nigeria is known to have subsidized about three elements, which is the electricity, the PMS, and as well the currency. But managing the three, we've seen an adjustment in three of them within a short period due to impacts of COVID. It's going to free up cash for the government, removal of the subsidy on electricity and also the PMS. But telling on the people at the time where we're seeing a spike in unemployment and a lot of job loss looming, and generally a weakening of the wallet of consumers, I don't think this is a good time to lift all three or adjust all three. I think it's a good development that the government is seeking to maintain a form of subsidy on the electricity tariff. The PMS might be a great time for we to remove it once and for all, and move on on that, and that will free up some cash to do some bigger development, and also to liberalize that industry that has been in all form of comatose for a while. But the electricity, I think it might favor the people if there's some form of subsidy, not a total removal of the subsidy on those tariffs.
You spoke my mind, Akintunde, when you talk about the electricity tariff versus subsidy versus petrol subsidy. Petrol subsidy, this has all to do with the crude oil market. It has to do with supply, demand, production. It has to do with refineries, and all of that are imports, and all of that cost of landing and the whole racket in there. But for electricity, if my bill is about 1,000 naira per month, for electricity, you can subsidize by 200 naira. I know what that means. So when the bill comes, I know it goes straight to me. So if my bill is 1,000 naira, I'm sure Luke will agree. You just get that reduction and it's there. You know. But for petrol subsidy, is neither here nor there. You don't know where the subsidy goes. You're still paying whatever at the pump price and what have you. But look, I want you to speak more to the investment market that we saw last week and what your take is when we're looking at the third quarter earnings down the line. A whole lot of announcements, board meetings taking place moving forward. Is this what investors want to quickly book some profits, then come back with some aggressive pricing when the numbers start coming through, maybe in a week, maybe 2 weeks down the line?
So I think for now, it's just going to be more of mixed trading in the equity markets. So for some stocks, fundamentally sound, and stocks that released impressive results in the first half of the year. I'm talking about the banks, looking at what Zenith Bank did, GT, and even for some other non-financial companies like Dangote Cement, Lafarge Africa. We saw these companies release impressive results. So I do think that we might just continue to see more of positive trading sentiments on these stocks. However, for the consumer goods stocks, we understand that while the government has really softened social distancing measures, we'd like to reiterate that a number of them are still dealing with the impact of COVID-19. We understand that demand is yet to recover to pre-COVID-19 levels. So as a result of that, we might continue to see declines in their turnover as well as bottom line. So based on that, we do think that investors might want to be very cautious in terms of taking positions on consumer goods stocks. Then for the oil and gas sector, I mean, we have two major sectors, two major subsectors in that sector. We have the upstream and the downstream. So for the upstream, looking at what oil prices are doing currently, I mean, they are still at very low levels. We understand that we've seen significant recoveries from the levels oil prices were in the month of April and May, but compared to pre-COVID-19 levels when Brent prices were around $65, I mean, you could tell that oil prices at the moment are still at very low levels. So we do think that during this period, we might not see that strong trading sentiments on the likes of Seplat and Oando. Then for the downstream segments, we understand that early in September, the government decided to fully deregulate the downstream segment. So what that means is that market forces and the movements in oil prices can then determine the price of PMS in the country. And since then, we've seen like upward movements in prices as well as advancements in margins. So we think that will support their performance positively in the third quarter. So we do expect a number of them to post impressive performance. We understand that in the first 2 quarters, a company like Total Nigeria PLC reported losses after tax. But in the third quarter, we do see them returning to profitability. So as a result of that, we might see that positive sentiment on the likes of Total and Adova PLC. Then for Banks and Lafarge that I mentioned, given what they did in the first half of the year, despite contractions in capital spending, we saw significant growth in their bottom line as well as top line. So I do think that we might see more positive trading on these stocks. However, let's not forget that over the past 2 weeks, a number of stocks have gained about 25 to 30%. So we might see some investors taking profits, especially investors who want to take advantage of short-term gains. So that's really my take on the equity market at the moment.
Well, if you can take gains in October and you can keep those gains away for year-end spending, I'm sure that's not a bad idea, by the way, if you know where to lock it up. I'm sure Ali wouldn't mind taking that and just warehouse it somewhere. Let's go to Southern Africa. The big story for South Africa this week is President Ramaphosa's economic recovery plan, reconstruction and recovery plan that he will be unveiling on the 15th. That's going to be Thursday, by the way. That's the biggest story. Angola is still looking for oil, by the way. ExxonMobil is still doing seismic studies around the Namibe basin. $50 million is what they're pumping into that. Ali, I'm sure the Ramaphosa story is the biggest story. We have the mining production data tomorrow. We have the retail sales data. It's going to be a very heavy week on Southern Africa.
You're absolutely correct. I think investors will be looking very keenly for the plan that President Ramaphosa is going to present. The rand has recovered a little bit. Metals has been supporting the South African economy, but it did have a very, very sharp contraction, and it's been in the doldrums for a number of years now. Per capita GDP growth has been negative for, I think, more than 6 years. So very keenly awaited. I think South Africa, the advantage it's had is, Turkey has been so bombed out. Emerging market investors had when they, in the comparison, South Africa might have looked better, and that's why you've got this support which has come into the rand. So a big week for South Africa. We'll all be keenly watching what comes out of that. African Bank in search of acquisitions. Look, most African banks that have cash, this is the time to be buying up cheap assets, whether it's in your home market or in the sub-Saharan African economy. We see Nigerian banks doing the same thing as well. Angola, well, that's a positive statement by ExxonMobil. With the oil price where it is, Angola's been struggling, and I think that's a good sign that the majors are still interested in exploration, because it signals everything has not come to a standstill. Namibia, this equity fund EOS to raise $33.5 million for agricultural projects by 2021. This is all about trying to accelerate agriculture in Namibia. Agriculture has been the silver bullet for most economies across the continent this year. Those economies that have had a strong agricultural sector have outperformed those that haven't. And I think that's why there is liquidity available for companies who are pursuing that market niche.
Okay, let's finish off on the North African side, but quickly I'm going to ask, let's quickly check in with North Africa. As the Egyptian central bank issued 20 billion pounds of its local currency in treasury bills on Sunday, but the central bank is setting up Egypt Cash Company for tech solutions of money dealings. This is all about infotech and what have you. The last story there grabbed my attention. Tunisian Stock Exchange is establishing a digital stock exchange for its startups. I think we can use more of this innovation. Ali, you'll comment on this a bit, but I want to get Akintode's snapshot on your outlook for Nigeria's inflation data, which will be out on Thursday, the 15th.
Sorry.
Yeah, Akintode, please go ahead.
Inflation, we expect the variables that move it, which is still the exchange rate, the PMS, food basket, to drive inflation upwards. We've seen it spike for the past periods, and we expect that going into next month, we'll see go higher. We see troubles across food baskets. We've been experiencing floods in the northern part of the state, which have produced majority of the content in the food basket, which we expect will drive inflation higher. We're still expecting it to over about 13%. Probably it's below the 13.5 range.
Okay. Ali, quickly coming on the North African story.
Yes, so first of all, let me touch on Egyptian central bank issuing 20 billion in T-bills on Sunday. This is a key barometer of confidence in the Egyptian economy, and investors continue to snap up those bills and run the carry on the basis that the currency is remaining stable. There is talk after a very soft inflation print of a rate cut on the horizon, but you'll see they'll be cautious. They cut 300 basis points and then they stopped, but there is room now to cut rates in Egypt. And to finish off with your Tunisian story, isn't that exciting? The stock exchange in Tunisia establishing a digital stock exchange for startups. I really think, like you said, every stock exchange on the continent should be doing the same in order to ignite the whole startup segment. Kudos to Tunisia for grabbing the bull by the horns.
Yeah, Luke, do you think Nigeria can also use a digital stock exchange for our startups?
Yeah, I do think so. I do think so, but a number of things need to be put in place first. So we first of all need to address how we think we can actually gain the trust of these startups. I think that has been the major issue as regards to having your presence on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. in terms of the regulations? Are they friendly to these startups? So if we can address these things, I mean, bringing them on board using digital means should not really pose a serious challenge to the Nigerian Stock Exchange.
Maybe a totally different stock exchange, maybe not Nigerian Stock Exchange. Maybe someone just put a digital, an online stock exchange, for example, like today, isn't it?
Yes, I agree with you. I mean, it could just be not as sophisticated as what we're having with the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Something as basic. We know the Nigerian Stock Exchange has tried to attract these micro, small, and medium enterprises by floating the goods board, but we've not seen that kickstart since that has been initiated. Hopefully, they can drive that and see a lot of these great companies, these great startups. They are coming up. List on that board, and like Luke rightly said, it's more of trust now, and it's more of sustainability. What is in it for them? If they don't see the value, if they don't see the drive, maybe financial literacy goes a long way to do that as well. They don't see the drive, they don't see the need. They wouldn't be coming there, even if you float that electronic stock exchange.
Okay, I think this is a conversation I'm really interested in, by the way. I don't mind setting up a digital online stock exchange just to, perhaps this will keep some of the youths who are restless and all that. Maybe that will keep them give them a whole sense of belonging as part of the big economy, by the way. By the time you tell them, oh, this is about your own stock exchange, if you go to Yaba, if you go to Abuja, you go to Aba, and you're trying to bring them on into a platform, the farm crowdy, whatever, guys. I'm sure the SEC can work something out very quickly, give them a sense of belonging, that they belong to the part of the blue-collar economy. And then I hope we'll just be able to get a hang on some of them, rather than letting them feel like they're like fish out of water, by the way. I guess that is the sense of belonging that we might just be able to bring them to Broad Street, by the way. And them come in their jeans and trousers like Bill Gates did many years ago. Ali, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And them come with their t-shirts and jeans, yes.
I think there's a really exciting opportunity for investors as well. So what this would do is create a transparent platform where people can have price discovery, and that, we can we've got a lot of capital. We're not necessarily putting it in the right places. And this is a place where capital should be applied. And I think, anything that makes it more transparent and flow and brings capital, startup capital to that sector is a good thing. So yeah, I'm all for it.
Thank you. I'm all for it as well. Aketunde Suleiman, thank you so much from Greenwich Trust. Luke Ofojebe from Vectiva Capital Management, good morning. Thank you so much. And Ali Kansachu in Nairobi. Have a great day, everyone. Let's continue this conversation tomorrow from here. Bye for now.